Hello, and welcome to I Know Dino, the Big Dinosaur Podcast, where we cover news, interviews, and discussions of all things dinosaur.
Hello and welcome to I Know Dino. I'm Garrett.
And I'm Sabrina.
And today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. You can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/iknowdino. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from, and you can listen to them on your Android device, iPhone, Kindle, or MP3 player. And we want to give a big thank you to all of our patrons. The support we get through Patreon is really great, and we've been getting lots of good comments. We've been posting links to the show notes and the recordings there, so if you want to follow our progress or see what we have to offer if you become a patron, or if you already are a patron, thank you very much. And you can interact with us by going to patreon.com/iknowdino.
Yeah, make us feel loved. And thank you to those who do.
This week we have an interview with the team behind Saurian, a bunch of dinosaur news, and our dinosaur of the day is Citipati. So starting out with the interview, we'll just jump right in.
Today we've got with us developers from the Saurian game, and Saurian is an open-world survival game that is both beautiful and scientifically accurate. And in this game you play as one of 4 dinosaurs, Dakota Raptor, Pachycephalosaurus, Tyrannosaurus, or Triceratops, and you must survive from hatchling to adult in the Hell Creek ecosystem. Each life stage comes with new challenges, all while managing physical needs and avoiding predators and natural hazards. We first interviewed the Saurian team in our episode 43, and now after 3 years of development, they're running a successful Kickstarter campaign in order to get their game out into the world. They've already reached more than their initial goal of $55,000. More than 4,200 backers have already pledged over $150,000, including us, and the project will be funded on Thursday, June 23rd at 12:49 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time.
Very precise.
Well, I thought it was interesting that it was that precise on Kickstarter.
They like to keep track of these things.
They do. Last thing, they've reached a number of stretch goals, including genetic variation skins, spectator mode, character customization, dynamic environment events, post-impact survival, and new playable dinosaurs. And it looks like you've just reached the multiplayer stretch goal.
Yeah, we hit multiplayer today.
This morning.
May God have mercy on our souls.
Yes, please.
You guys have come a long way. It's awesome.
Yeah. So with me today we have Alejandra, who's one of our programmers. She's handling like player control right now, how the dinosaurs move from the player's perspective. Jack is kind of a tech artist. He can do just about anything if we tell him to do it. And Jake
and
is
continue to tell me until
Yes.
I actually do it. Yeah.
And Jake Bardsey is our 3D modeler. He's responsible for like 99% of the things in game right now.
I mean, I think there isn't a single thing in the Kickstarter trailer that I didn't do as far as like the gameplay stuff. That's
Humble brag.
Yeah.
humble
Yeah.
brag.
That's not
Yeah,
even
no.
a humble brag. That's just brag.
Straight brag. Yeah.
I'm giving you an out, Jake. Take it.
And Henry's our AI programmer.
So how many people are you up to now?
We're up to 15 people who are involved in some capacity or another, including Jerry.
Jerry's awesome. We got some questions about Jerry.
Brian's internet doesn't work very well, so he has a hard time with Skype. So we can do our best, but the Emu Master is not here.
Oh.
I think it's a simple question.
It is. So we know Saurian's a passion project. How does it feel to have so much public support?
It feels really, really good, at least for me, because until you actually finally put something out there for people to react to and fund, you're never quite sure if you've really nailed, the public's mood. You're never quite sure how many people are actually behind you, and having, 4,400 plus people who have pledged to it now is awesome.
It is amazingly overwhelming. Since the Kickstarter launch, I've been between out of my mind happy and just crying. Because we had such a good response from fans. We reached our goal within 2 days, and we don't have a big marketing team or whatever. We basically just put it out for our fans, the people that have been following us for years, and these people made it happen. I have no idea how they did it, but they made it happen. We had 2,000 backers in the first 3 days.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've been at this for a while and you do all kinds of engagement stuff, like your live streams are awesome.
Well, yeah.
I hope you aren't watching those.
I watched the condensed version.
Okay. We did
get weird.
we did a 24-hour live stream. At least I did one. When was that? Was that a week ago
Monday.
now?
Yes, that was
Monday.
Yeah, it would be
Monday.
Monday now. And needless to say, we were up for 24 hours. Everyone was a bit loopy.
So, are you guys able to work on this all full time now, or?
I have quit one of my jobs so far, so that's the plan for me, starting at the end of the Kickstarter.
Awesome.
I think one of the first things we're going to do once the Kickstarter concludes is we're going to have to go back and kind of rehash just about everything we had planned to do and sort of reassign, funding here and funding there, because we just have so much more to work with now than I think we even ever expected we would. So it's good problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. So, which stretch goal are you most excited to have reached?
Depends on what you mean by excited, right? In terms of like general heart rate and cortisol like release of adrenaline, it's the multiplayer. At least
Yes.
But in terms of pleasant excited feeling, for me it would be like the genetic variant skins.
Oh yeah, that's a cool one. What are the different ones? There's like an albino one, and have you released what the different ones were going to be yet?
At this point, we're looking at doing at least albino, melanistic, and piebald animals. Mostly because those three are ones you can actually find, even if it's really rarely in the natural world. And there's one or two others that we're toying with at this point, but at least those three will be available.
What were the last two you mentioned? I didn't recognize those.
Melanistic, which is animals that have excess pigment, like black panthers are just melanistic leopards or jaguars.
Huh.
And the third one is a piebald animal, has actually like blotches of skin on their body that are without pigment. They're white, but they're sort of like these weird, very precise edges on an otherwise like patterned animal.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah. And what's kind of neat about genetic skins is that it's our intent to have them actually have an influence on how you play. In the wild, many animals that are albino have a more difficult time finding mates because other members of their species kind of aren't entirely sure how to react to an animal that looks as different as an albino does. And they're also much more visible unless you like live in the Arctic or something like that. An albino animal in the middle of a forest kind of stands out quite a bit. So anyone wanting to play as an albino is going to have a bigger challenge on their hand.
It's like wearing hunting camo, like bright orange.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. Except in this case, the deer can see better than you can. So
Yeah. So last time that we talked, you were talking about Raptor, and you were kind of hinting about Dakota Raptor, which is...
yeah.
Oh my god, I remember that.
Yeah. I was so excited when that came out.
Yeah, they didn't really like me for a long time because
We were dangling it in front of our faces, and you reveled in the fact that you knew something that none of us did. And every chance you got, you were like, "No, guys, this new dinosaur is gonna be great."
There was a graceful and an ungraceful way to do that, and you were very much on the ungraceful side of it.
And Alejandra was talking about how much she liked Raptor, and I was thinking, like, how did she react to now it being switched, I guess, to Dakota Raptor? Or is that basically what you did, or did you make a lot of changes to go along with it?
Not that many changes had to be made because the way it's programmed, like in terms of setting it up as a playable. And I love Raptor, but I also love Dakota Raptor because it's like a big fluffy Raptor. It's great. It's all good things.
I actually found out about Dakota Raptor a couple months before it was published, and I was sworn to secrecy by the person who told me, to the extent that I couldn't even tell other people about it. And needless to say, it's a little frustrating on my end, and I may have taken out that frustration by dangling it in front of other people. So
He is
But
the worst kind of person to have secrets.
I am. But I mean, once it was public, I mean, I think that was one of those. I think if you guys read the blog post we put up, that's a direct quote from Henry when we told him what it was. Like, that's unadulterated Henry, just Dakota Raptor, Dakota Raptor, Dakota Raptor.
Yeah, I was freaking out.
Yeah, as soon as I heard about that dinosaur, I was like, this is maybe the coolest dinosaur I've ever seen.
It is really, really, really cool just because of how essentially mysterious and absent it's been from the fossil record up until this point. And one of the things that has kind of started to come out now that Dakotaraptor has been published is that there probably are little bits and pieces of it that have been known for a significant amount of time. They just have never been identified as belonging to a large dromaeosaur. Apparently there are even some teeth that are from a formation in Canada that's about 15 to 20 million years older than the Hell Creek Formation that has teeth that are very close of those that were assigned to Dakotaraptor. So this animal and its ancestral stock may just be a very rare part of late Cretaceous North American dinosaur faunas and has just been unknown until now, which is even cooler.
Yeah, that's really neat. So I know you were saying that the Achiroraptor could go about 15 miles an hour, but I've read some stuff about Dakotaraptor that it might have been really fast. Is that how it's going to be in your game? Is it going to be like faster than a T-Rex, or have you decided yet?
It's not necessarily just a matter of what we decide, in the sense that we've animated the Dakotaraptor. It can run around on its own. When we first did it, I think Brian got it up to something about like 35 miles an hour, I think is what he managed to get it running at, where it looked like it was still believable.
Wow.
And we sent that animation off to John Hutchinson, who's a expert in animal locomotion. He's been the person that we've gone to when we had questions about like our Tyrannosaur locomotion or our Triceratops or any of those other animals. And he looked at it and he thought, I think this animal is still taking too rapid of strides. It's still moving too fast for an animal that's, bigger than an ostrich. And he suggested that we slow down its stride length, maybe shorten its stride length a little bit. And what we wound up with is an animal that's running at about 29 to 30 miles an hour, and it's just slower than what we have our subadult Tyrannosaur running at right now.
Wow.
And I think that's one of the things that's interesting about Dakotaraptor is it's definitely built more like an animal, a small dromaeosaur, basically, something more akin to like Sauroornitholestes or some of these other small, lightly built dromaeosaurs. The only difference is that it's big. And despite that, it still has those real dromaeosaur characteristics of, probably has really short foot bones because it's also going to have to use its feet as part of its predatory technique, I guess you can say. And that probably means that Dakotaraptor was capable of moving quickly, but it's nowhere near capable of running for distance the way like a Tyrannosaur or an ornithomimid might be able to. So it's kind of this neat little sprinter that it's going to be fast over short distances, but it's not going to outrun something like Jane, the Tyrannosaurus, because her legs just go on forever. And if you ever get a chance to check out Brian set up a scene that he shows in his live streams from time to time where he basically has all the animals racing each other. And you look at how fast Dakotaraptor is running, and you look how fast Jane is running. Jane doesn't look like she requires anywhere near as much energy to maintain her speed as it takes Dakotaraptor to. So
But Jane has leg for days. It's great. She's so leggy.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Are there any other dinosaur abilities or anything that you'd like to share?
What's kind of really cool is that we've also, one of the other aspects of Dakotaraptor that we also were planning to do with Achiroraptor is climbing. And climbing in Dakotaraptor is something that's unlike what we kind of showed in the trailers. Like, we're really going to try and emphasize that it's young Dakotaraptors that are capable of climbing or are really good at climbing. And the adults maybe only climb rarely just because it's still talking about an animal that's probably 200 kilograms plus hoisting itself into a tree. But what's cool about it is that we know from the shape of dromaeosaur claws that they're perfectly built for hooking into something and supporting weight. And they're sort of like climbing crampons in that sense. And it's been argued for quite a while that dromaeosaurs do not have a whole lot of physical characteristics of a climbing animal, but this claw might be something that indicated that even if they're not well designed to do it, they were still capable of climbing.
Cool.
And since Dakota Raptors are the first dinosaur that people are going to be able to play as, it's kind of cool to hype it up. And there are a couple other abilities that are coming with some of the other animals that I think will be kind of nice surprises. So
awesome. Well, we'll let people get surprised by those then. So last time too, you were talking about there was a little dinosaur, or not a dinosaur, a little lizard that was running around that you were trying to chase.
Oh,
Do you still have that thing running around and hiding? And
Henry, it's your baby.
It's impossible to see.
Oh, Scuttlebuns, Chamox.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, he still exists in the project. We didn't put him in any of our recent builds just because he's almost impossible to see. It's so hard to find it. It's something that you're really only going to be able to see as the younger stages, I think.
Yeah.
And even then, it's going to be really difficult.
so it's almost like an Easter egg or something.
I mean, it's not that. It's just that, it's so small and there's enough foliage that it's really hard to see the tiny
catch.
lizard.
Yeah. Chamops is actually kind of a really good lesson for us in like the limitations of what you can do when you're making a game where the size of the animals you're playing as varies from something that's, the size of a human to something that's the size of a bus. We've kind of made Chamops basically our de facto. Nothing in the game really can be smaller than this, because Chamops by itself is already difficult to encounter, to the point that I think we ran around in a map that was like barely foliated, and it lost us quite easily. So, to continue to have Chamops is obviously not going anywhere. He's going to continue to be a part of the game, but we may have to kind of get a little bit creative about how players perceive some things around them to actually just sort of make Chamops visible in many cases. But essentially nothing in the game is going to be smaller than Chamops. And Chamops is somewhere between 60 and 80 centimeters in total length.
Yeah, it's pretty small if you're a T-Rex.
Yeah. Like barely bigger than your teeth.
Okay, so then I got to get to the biggest question that I have.
Oh boy.
You have the goal for the new dinosaurs, and you said you're going to do one herbivore and one carnivore, and it's going to get voted on by backers. And I saw a couple of days ago you put on an Anatosaurus/Edmontosaurus, depending who you ask, an Anzuili and an Ankylosaurus, which is my personal favorite dinosaur. I'm assuming those are all herbivores, or is Anzu going to be a carnivore? And then do you have any idea which carnivores you're going to be putting in for the vote?
Well, I think we were a little bit hasty when we made that initial statement. What we're looking at doing right now is actually something where we're looking at including one herbivore and one omnivore, just because the other carnivore options in Hell Creek that we know of at this point are like a Raptor, who's already kind of really pushing the small end of things if you're going to make it a 3 or 4 life stage playable. And beyond that, most of the other animals that are comparable to it are, of about the same size. After you get through growth stages of Tyrannosaurus and Dakota Raptor, they really have, like large predator, medium-sized predator niche pretty well locked up. And so what we've looked at is, instead of a herbivore and a carnivore, we're going to offer people a choice between an herbivore and an omnivore.
Okay. So Anzu will be one of the omnivores, most likely?
Yes. The other animal that we're looking at strongly for a potential omnivore would be the Hell Creek ornithomimid. And there's not a whole lot of agreement as to whether or not it's properly called ornithomimus or struthiamimus, or if it might be something else altogether. North American ornithomimids are really in need of like somebody to just make it like their doctoral thesis or something. Just go through all of them and see exactly who's related to whom.
Mm-hmm.
If it does turn out the Hell Creek ornithomimid is not struthiamimus or ornithomimus, we have a name that's ready for lobbying though. So a while back when Jake first sculpted the ornithomimid, we sort of threw out the idea of the name of like Dinornithomimus, and it's a little bit of a dumb joke because you can kind of take two different meanings out of that. One of the genus names for moas is Dinornis, so you could say Dinornithomimus is a moa mimic. Or the other one you could do is if you treat it the same root as dinosaur, so it's Dinornithomimus, you could have it be like terrible bird mimic. The other root meaning of dinos can be like fearfully great or awesome. So it's either the terrible bird mimic or the awesome bird mimic. But that's kind of like neither here or there. Somebody has to study it and decide, yes, this is actually something different. And if they do, we have a name ready for them.
That's good.
Good. You mentioned before Jane is the Tyrannosaurus. Do all of the playable dinosaurs have you named them personally yet?
Not yet. The Tyrannosaurs in particular all have names because for whatever reason, Tyrannosaurs are just sort of so popular that everyone seems to think they all need names. So, who knew? Right now, we have kind of like little code names for them. The smallest one is Chomper because it's based off of a specimen at the Museum of the Rockies called Chomper. The juvenile is, we've called it Jordan because it's based on the juvenile specimen at the Los Angeles County Museum, which was found in Jordan, Montana, and before it was named was called the Jordan theropod. And then there's Jane. So and Stan is the adult that we based our sculpt off of. And we haven't really gotten around to making too many of the other growth stages yet. We haven't really picked out names for like the trike growth stages other than the little one is ugly.
I want to take this moment to put forward calling the adult Dakota Raptor Bob.
Bob.
Yes, it's Bob.
I'm down.
I think we only really named
consideration.
Yeah, we only really named the T-Rex ones just because it was what everyone knew them by. Like the subadult's just Jane. It's the specimen name. It's kind of a popular one, but like there's none of that for the other ones, so we're just gonna probably call them subadult.
Spoken like a true engineer.
With Pachycephalosaurus, though, we could probably, because Pachycephalosaurus is pretty well agreed upon in the scientific community now to have what was formerly known as Dracorex and Stygimoloch are just the juvenile and subadult growth stages of Pachycephalosaurus. So that's another case where we kind of have names for them, but we haven't really used them yet because ours is still in the works. So
we based our Pachy on Sandy, right?
Yes, the adult sculpt that we have now is based off of a specimen that hasn't ever been formally described, but has been 3D scanned and is usually referred to as Sandy.
Cool. Yeah, and Dracorex and Stygimoloch are just fun to say, so that would be a good choice.
Yeah, they for whatever reason, like all the dinosaurs that get sunk in Hell Creek have the cool names.
Yeah.
Because like they've sunk Anatotitan.
Mm-hmm.
They sank Tatankaceratops. What else have we sunk recently?
I mean, not recently, but Manispondylus kind of sucks as a name.
Yeah. Yeah, there's all sorts of these ones that have kind of cool names. Oh, there were 2 growth stages of Tyrannosaurus that were at one time called Dinotyrannus and Stygivenator, and both of those are gone too. So,
Wasn't Dinosaurus a thing too?
Yeah, Dynamasaurus almost was the official name of Tyrannosaurus if it wasn't for where it showed up in the publication.
Oh, yeah.
It was published after Tyrannosaurus, so
dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, I was going to say. Maybe it wouldn't have been as popular.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if it was Manispondylus, I don't think anybody would be talking about it today.
Yeah. Manispondylus is awful.
Just really quick, going back to the Dakota Raptor. So we saw one of your rewards is a Paleo plushie by Rebecca Groom, and I looked her up. She's an artist who sells soft sculptures of dinosaurs on Etsy, and we saw a picture of the plushie, and we're like, oh my god, that's amazing. How did you end up teaming up with her?
I've actually kind of casually known Rebecca for a couple years. She and I kind of frequent some of the same like paleo chat groups and Skype groups and stuff like that. And when we were thinking about Kickstarter rewards, it was literally like, hey, she does plushies. She did a bunch of like Velociraptor plushies about a year and a half ago. She actually kickstarted having them produced, and she'll do like small batches of plushies periodically of all sorts of stuff. I think the last one she did was like of Tiktaalik, which is that really early tetrapod like fish, you could say.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I just literally just said, hey, Rebecca, you want to make some Dakota Raptors? I know you've made others before. And she was really excited. She's really into doing this. And she's been a really big backer and supporter of Saurian and the concept behind it for a long time. So it's just kind of, asking your friends to see if they want to do anything to help you out. And it's unfortunate that she only really has the ability to make 6 of them, because I know everybody wants them. And it's really a matter of, it's not that she couldn't make more.
I
it's
want
just
one.
That, yeah. Yeah. It's not that she couldn't make more. She just said, I don't want to have people waiting like a year and a half to get a plush because that's probably how long it's going to take her to make some of these. So
That's what Kickstarter's all about. It's okay.
yeah. She's really enjoyed it. She's actually just finished the prototype and she's going to send it to RJ so he can get some pictures of it in like an actual redwood forest.
Oh,
You have
nice.
no idea how hard he was pushing for getting the prototype, by the way.
Yeah,
Every
because you're gonna
other day.
keep it.
Yeah, every other day he's like, if we need, like, I could buy it and like, like take a picture of it in the woods near my house, like if we need. Every other day. Like he's doing us a favor or something.
Of course.
I mean, he's gonna take one for the team, really.
Yeah.
Don't worry, guys. I got this.
If you guys need, I can take a picture of one of those Dakota Raptor claws, like anytime,
Well, that's awesome. I was going to say, you guys have a lot of really cool friends who are related to dinosaurs because, well, obviously you've got all the connections with the paleontologists and stuff. And
Yeah, and that paleo art is really good too.
Oh, thank you.
Dinosaurs brought us together.
Yeah. It's a cool thing about them.
I mean, yeah, the paleontologist thing took a little bit of time because we kind of had to build a reputation for that, but
And that's actually been one of the things that's been most gratifying about this is that the way that you can communicate with somebody, like we've had paleontologists start coming to us and say, we might be interested in contacting you guys for, illustrations for scientific papers or even like commissioning animations. And that's really, really cool from our perspective, just because you actually get to work with people who are pushing science and knowledge forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. Have you had a lot of people, like artists, contacting you lately saying like, hey, can I help you out?
I've been in the video game industry a while, and when they saw that I was leaving my high status job to work with these maniacs that were all about dinosaurs, they were pitying me. And then they saw like how well the Kickstarter was doing, and all of a sudden I'm getting like, "Hey, do you guys need an extra artist?" Or like, no, go away.
I think the most requested position has got to be for composer. I have probably had a dozen different people offer to like compose music for Saurian, and it's hard because Francisco does such a fantastic job. Francisco is our sound designer and composer. He's basically created all the dinosaur sounds, and he's also now handling the soundtrack. And you can hear a little bit of his work in the Kickstarter trailer, but we did post to our website like the first sample of one of the tracks that's going to be used in the game. And he's just a phenomenal composer and sound designer. And it's you feel bad turning people down, but at the same time, it's like we have a fantastic person working on the team already, and he's around all the time. Francisco's just like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Do you need anything now? I'm bored. I'm gonna go record a bunch of sounds and then turn them into things you can use in the game.
That's awesome.
He actually, Henry actually contributed to the soundtrack as well.
Oh yeah, for what?
Yeah, I played some violin, got some violin samples and sent them over to our sound designer Chico, who used them to make a dope track.
Cool.
Nice.
I was going to ask you about the soundtrack, but also, who's writing your Hell Creek field guide to the world of Saurian?
The Hell Creek field guide is a little bit of a collaborative work between Tom Parker, and I don't remember if Tom was in the interview last time or not, but Tom, in addition to handling a bunch of the research behind the game, is also one of our primary map designers. And sort of on the side, he also is working on writing this guidebook along with myself and a couple others. And that's been a lot of fun. We're really looking forward to that coming together. But I think what's most cool about that is just how many extraordinarily talented people have been willing to jump on board and just provide us a piece or two of their own art based on Saurian concepts. And I think that's what's really going to make the book shine, is that you have some really, really talented people who are involved with it.
That's awesome. So now for my Jerry question. Well, if you know, because I know Brian's not on this call, but how's he doing? And are you going to have to pluck feathers out for your backers, or has Brian, I guess, slowly been collecting them over time?
Jerry's doing all right. Last I heard, he's. I haven't seen him on Jerry Cam recently, but I know that Brian is an excellent emu master. So, and basically, one of the things that we've stipulated well in the Kickstarter is that all of the feathers that Jerry will be sending people are ones that he's naturally molded. They're just ones that Brian has collected and been collecting for probably 6 months now. He said he's got something like a huge plastic bag of them that we're ready to send off when the time comes. So it's one of the things that I've really liked about the Kickstarter and our fans is just like how many people are just stoked about Jerry or like seeing Jerry. Like I think anytime Brian streams, there are people who ask about him multiple times over and over again. So
yeah, I saw you added extra Jerry feathers, and we were thinking like, how are they going to get 250 of these feathers? But it makes more sense that they've been collected over a long period of time.
You're anticipating it.
yeah,
The secret truth is that we just hang him upside down.
Shake him.
Yeah. He's on a rack somewhere. Brian's drumming his fingers together underneath him.
Oh, Jake.
So, how close is the game to being ready now?
We have a lot of work ahead of us. We'll put it that way. Jack, Alejandra, and Henry, I think, can speak better to this than I can. So
We are much closer than we were 9 months ago.
yes, this is true.
That's something.
That's
Progress.
We're much
I mean,
closer than we were 3 years ago.
Yes. I think we're on a good track. We got a good outline of where we want to go, what we want to have for our first release for early access, and we're working towards that. So that's been helping out a lot.
I think the big thing too is that we finally have resources available to us that will make this development pick up pace up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know this might be kind of a touchy subject, Henry. Sorry, but I want to ask about the AI. Like, now that you have funding, will you be able to start working on that again?
The learning AI?
Mm-hmm.
No, the reason that I stopped working on it wasn't because of funding. The reason was because it was an experimental architecture that was just too risky. I was trying a lot of new things to try and make it work with such an open-ended, open-world setting, and yeah, it's just I had no guarantee that it would work, as opposed to traditional architectures, which I do have a guarantee will work, and I know how they work already.
Mm-hmm.
So it was something that was done, kind of conservatively for the safety of the project. Rather than taking a big swing and taking the risk of missing, take a little swing and make sure that we hit it.
Which isn't to say that Henry doesn't want to go back and revisit it someday. It's just
If I can eventually, I absolutely will.
Awesome. Do you see Saurian as, like, once it's out, obviously, you've got to maintain it and stuff, but do you see it having a lot of updates to correlate with whatever science, uncovers in the future about the Hell Creek Formation and specific dinosaurs?
Well, my hope is that we've done a pretty good job up front about covering a lot of our bases. Just that, one can hope that, but that's not a specific guarantee. I think in the short term, we can definitely sort of adapt and tweak to fit new things that are discovered, but expecting like a perpetual update on the Hell Creek Formation is probably not realistic. That at some point in time, Saurian will have to wind up being like a snapshot of what we knew about the Hell Creek Formation circa 2016-17-ish. So our hope is just that we've done a good enough job interpreting the data that it ages gracefully at a certain point.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have, at least from what we've seen.
Yeah, and all the animations and stuff look great and very realistic.
Yeah, those are definitely Brian's babies. He spends a lot of time making sure they look right.
Cool.
Otherwise, Jerry will get mad.
Yeah. I think the best part, and Garrett, you mentioned that Ankylosaurus is your favorite model so far. I think Jake probably spent the most time on that of any sculpt you've done for the game.
Yeah, probably. There was a lot of back and forth with the paleontologist we were consulting on that one.
Well, and then there's also the fact that you did all the scales by hand.
Wow. How long did that take?
We did it all over the course of a stream.
Right, but your streams can be 24 hours.
Yeah,
so.
they can take a long time. I would say like average, it takes me about eight hours to make a model. So it might have taken 16. Who knows?
I mean,
it was a lot of just listening to music and drawing one scale at a time.
The results definitely speak for itself, though, because that thing looks fantastic.
It does.
And we were working with Victoria Arbor. She was exceedingly helpful with both our Ankylosaurus and our Denversaurus. And, that model is probably the best representation of Ankylosaurus produced. And that sounds like it's, bragging, but I absolutely think that based on her feedback and Jake's skill. So,
are there any specifics about it that you're really happy about, or that are a little bit unique to it?
Some of it has to do with the fact that Victoria did share some data that is based on her own observations, and she's seen more ankylosaurs with intact and preserved armor than just about anyone I can think of. And so she kind of lent some of her personal observations and even a little bit of unpublished data to help us make this. And there's some different interpretations about armor arrangement in the model than has been frequently portrayed before. I think we wound up having to completely redo our first model because we based it off of an old publication that she said was, a couple things in here aren't quite right. And there's never been a model that's come anywhere close to how precise this one is that I've ever seen, at least.
Cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Precision and scientific accuracy usually isn't in the forefront of game development. It's usually more about, is it scary enough, or
Yeah, does it look cool?
And to be perfectly honest, people who say that haven't encountered a Tyrannosaur in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like the whole thing about not being scared by a T-Rex with feathers. It's like, you really think if you encountered a T-Rex with feathers, you'd be like, it's just a little bird. I'll just stand here and not run away.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone that's listened to the sound tests that we have up on YouTube of a T-Rex not even roaring, just sort of general communication between T-Rexes, just their clearing of their throats, essentially, sounds so terrifying that it makes the little monkey mammal in you just want to scurry under a rock.
That's great.
When we posted that, there was actually kind of an interesting discussion that came up on our YouTube comments of all places. And usually YouTube comments are like the worst place in the world to go and talk about something. But
Yeah.
somebody mentioned that they thought this sounded really, really good in terms of like what we could reasonably expect a dinosaur to sound like. But they went even further to say that we know that in cassowaries, for example, and emus as well, that a lot of the sound that they make is infrasound. It's below the level that we can hear, and its wavelengths are so long that you don't even hear them, you feel them more than anything else. Like Brian has said before that when emus make a sound that's sometimes called booming, and he said that you don't always hear an emu boom, but you can always feel them boom. Like you can literally feel it in your chest when they do it.
Oh, jeez.
And here's an animal that's, 30 times the mass of an emu. If this animal is communicating in infrasound, the person pointed out that it's potentially possible that an animal that large making a loud enough sound could be like detrimental to your heartbeats.
Wow.
Let's think about like what a whale does when it makes low frequency sound. I've never been in the water with a whale, but I imagine that sounds pretty terrifying too if you can feel it more than you can hear it. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I also like just the idea of using a noise that isn't that exact noise that Jurassic Park made and everybody's been using for a T-Rex since then.
Yeah.
Or some poor copy of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard somewhere that a real T-Rex can't roar like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it can't push that much air through its lungs like that. So
I think it's more a matter just that most dinosaur sounds that people hear in cinema or in popular media are still based on mammal noises. And, mammals make noises in a different way than birds and crocodilians do.
Yeah, we talked about that T-Rex noise because we had some article where they talked about how they made it. And I think it was a combination of a whale, a lion roar, what else was thrown in there?
sounds like a freight train.
Yeah.
Could have been. It was like all these things that they smushed together, kind of like Star Wars or something, and just sound designed the craziest, loudest noise they could come up with that had nothing to do with what a bird or a dinosaur would
Turtles,
say.
too.
Oh, yeah, turtles.
Turtles mating, I think.
Yeah.
Was one of them.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Mating
God.
turtles, that sound you gotta put on everything.
Henry, you can leave now.
Okay.
No, Chico's been very good about not making them sound like popular culture makes you think they will sound.
Yeah, that's great.
So what's been the biggest challenge for you guys up until now?
Multiplayer.
I think there's been a lot of like small challenges. I mean, the biggest one has just simply been lack of resources. I think that, people want to work more on it. We know we need to work more on it. There just hasn't been the ability to support the people who need to do that. I mean, going beyond that, there's also, I think, a little aspect of learning that you have to let go, that at some point you just have to let people see what you've done and be willing to share it with them, even if you look at it and you can spot all these things that you don't necessarily like about it that you wish you could tweak further, but it's just time. So
Yeah, makes sense. So I know you guys are probably really busy with all the Kickstarter now, but I guess as soon as that ends, what's going to be the next big thing to work on?
Alejandra?
The game.
The game.
I was going to say,
gotta-
this is your cue to yell multiplayer, but
Oh, God. Multiplayer, of course. I will yell multiplayer until we actually have the multiplayer build out.
That makes sense.
I'm hoping you get to the VR level because we have an Oculus Rift and playing as a dinosaur sounds so fun.
I'm hoping we get to it too because I want an excuse to get an Oculus Rift.
Brian has a Vive, and he's already played around with some of the animations he's made using the Vive, and he has had really exciting results from it, I guess you could say. So we're excited about that prospect too.
Cool. I hope you make it.
Cross your fingers.
Yeah.
And, thank you to everybody who's pushed us this far. See how much farther we can go I guess the best I could say about that. I guess one thing that I would report too is that we are definitely going to look to have at least one, probably two more live streams before the end of the Kickstarter. So definitely hope people are on the lookout for that. And we're excited.
Subscribe to the Twitch.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, I saw you're also on Discord now, right?
Yes, we do have a Discord.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you guys are all crazy busy right now, but we're excited we got to hear the updates. Best of luck with the rest of Kickstarter. It was great catching up.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for having us.
First in the news, we have an article that's all about how sauropods basically lived without having issues like getting a stroke from not getting enough blood to their head. And it's titled Neck Length and Mean Arterial Pressure in the Sauropod Dinosaurs. It was published in the Journal of Experimental Biology and written by S. Hughes and others. Like I said, the study's all about how you get blood up to your head when it's, 20 to 30, 40 feet above the ground with such a long neck. And in the abstract, they describe a few theories about how you could maybe get blood up to a sauropod head. One option is having an exceptionally large heart where you get huge blood pressure spikes and, just big pump, get it up to the head. Another option is to have multiple normal, quote unquote, probably still pretty big, sized hearts at intervals within the neck. So it's like a series of little pumps up the neck. Another option is just to not lift your head ever, which we've kind of been seeing some evidence of recently in other papers that weren't really worried about the blood supply, but were more worried about the muscle attachments and whether or not the dinosaurs could even mechanically raise their head like that. And then the last option is use the blood that's returning to the heart to help siphon blood up towards the head, which is a pretty interesting idea. And that's really what this paper focused on, even though it kind of sounds the strangest. But they believe that if you use a siphon in a sauropod with similar blood pressure to a giraffe, which is actually quite high, especially compared to something like a human, a sauropod could get its blood up to its head even if its neck was 12 meters or 39 feet long, which they say agrees with the longer necks in the fossil record and I was checking around to see different sauropod neck lengths, and 39 feet turns out to be the exact length of the new Titanosaur in the American Museum of Natural History. So it does match pretty well that if 39 feet is the maximum for siphoning blood, and they think that's a limiting factor, well, pretty much the biggest sauropod we've found has a neck that length. So pretty cool. And a neurobiologist not associated with the study wrote a nice summary of their work for the Huffington Post, which is nice because we couldn't get to the full article. It was behind a paywall. And he explains that they used a few equations to estimate the height that siphoning could get blood up a neck, and then they set up an experiment. Apparently, they set up a rig in a theater since it had a really high ceiling, which gave them the space they needed to mess around with sauropod dimensions. And they put red food coloring in water and then filled a pseudo-sauropod neck. The neck assembly was basically just a tube in a loop with a pump at the bottom set to a giraffe's blood pressure. And then they got the siphon working by making sure there weren't any bubbles in it. And they managed to get blood, in air quotes, to the head as long as they didn't raise the top end higher than about 8 meters or 26 feet. Or they didn't raise the full apparatus higher than 12 meters or 39 feet.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah. They recognized a few problems with the system, though. Siphoning actually puts a lot of pressure on the outside of the tube because siphoning is kind of drawing a vacuum on the way down. And this is a little bit different because it's a closed system where you're pressurizing one side and kind of depressurizing the other. But in any event, a typical blood vessel would collapse in this condition. And when they ran the experiment with a more flexible tube, it collapsed it and killed the siphon. So that wasn't working. They had to use a rigid tube. They did say that maybe in a sauropod neck, spinal and other body fluids would have helped limit that pressure rise. It might have kind of kept things a little more stable and prevented the blood vessels in the neck from collapsing. But they didn't actually show that with their experiment. The bigger problem that they ran into is that when they lifted the rig, like the entire thing, to see how high above ground it would work, the top of the neck nucleated some bubbles, which would have given the sauropod a stroke.
Oh no. Strogosaurus.
Yeah. They actually said that it boiled at the top, but I think what they mean is it was more like getting the bends where the dissolved oxygen met a low pressure at the top from that siphoning effect, and then the bubbles popped out. But in any event, you've got bubbles in the brain, and that's going to cause a blockage and blood to not flow, and then you've got, brain damage. And in their case, it was kind of funny too, because they literally had this huge rig full of fake blood, and when they lifted it up, the pipe actually broke, and then it, quote, drenched the stage with puddles of fake dino blood.
Oh no, you could attract a fake T-Rex that way.
You could. I'm a little skeptical about these conclusions at all, since blood isn't just water, and it shear thins, which means if you apply force to it, it actually changes the viscosity of it, which seems like it could impact a siphon, and I couldn't find any real studies about siphoning blood. There were a couple theories about giraffes using the same technique, and they disproved it just by looking at the actual giraffe biology. There wasn't anybody that I could find that actually tried to siphon blood because, you can just look at if animals do it. You don't actually have to set up a weird tube system with a pump to test it in modern animals. The other thing is I wonder about the impact of all the other branches that come off of this main pipeline to and from the head. Since they just had a simple loop, it's a lot different than the way blood actually is, where it disperses into muscle tissue and the brain and things like that before it comes back down. And I wonder if that would have an impact on the siphoning, or if the siphoning would cause complications, like maybe on the way back it would be pulling out too much blood or something. I don't know. But the research was really all just about the limits. And they weren't looking to say all sauropods held their necks upright because we showed that it's possible. They were really just looking to see if you could use siphoning as a tool to get blood to a sauropod's head, and maybe you wouldn't need this enormous heart or a series of hearts or one of these other strange configurations in order to get blood up to the sauropod head. And they did show pretty effectively that siphoning might have helped lower the blood pressure without having a huge heart. The other thing that I kind of mentioned already is that there are other studies that show that a lot of sauropods probably had a more horizontal neck just based on the vertebrae and the muscle and tendon attachment points in the neck. So this is just kind of a piece of it. But it's definitely a really cool study. I love that they actually performed an experiment to validate their hypothesis. That's often incredibly difficult to do in paleontology, so it's cool that they came up with a method to test this. And I like that their limits do seem to line up a little bit with the paleontological record. I'll be interested to see if there are any responses to this paper, especially from scientists who may have done research on the giraffes or other animals and may know a little bit more about how blood circulates in animals, but we'll have to wait and see.
Next, scientists have found new dinosaur tracks in Mexico. There's not much to say about them yet. So far, 40 tracks have been found, and they think the tracks belong to a dinosaur that lived 72 million years ago. So it'll be interesting when they have more of an update to hear about what kind of dinosaur it was.
Yeah, I really like the track sites because they give you a little bit of insight into how they moved and maybe how many of them there were around at a time, and maybe which dinosaurs were interacting. There were a few people that got caught stealing a dinosaur lawn ornament and some other things from the Berry Barn in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan in Canada. It looks like an actual barn that serves food and has a nursery, meaning a plant nursery, and apparently some dinosaur lawn ornaments. That is all for sale. Interesting place. Luckily, the thieves were caught by a local police plane. According to SPS Air Support Unit, at SPS Air 1 on Twitter, quote, "A quick search of Valley Road by at SPS Air 1 lands 4 in jail. Nobody steals from at the Berry Barn YXE. We love it there."
We had a cool comment from somebody when we posted this on Facebook. So Gary wrote, "Thieves, do you think anyone's saw us?"
That's a solid joke.
It is.
I really like that this air patrol in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan has like a snarky Twitter page.
Yeah.
When I went there, there was a video of a criminal running away that they had posted of like the infrared where you could see the guy in the night and he was like, "Look, we could see him running," and they had this little commentary about it. It's kind of funny. There's also a pub in Bristol in the UK, and it had an awesome dinosaur mural on its side, but the mural was apparently accidentally painted over. Luckily, a local artist repainted them, and they look great. It looks sort of like a Diabloceratops and maybe a Giraffatitan, but they're both very stylized and they have lots of really colorful scales, and they stand out really well on the side of the building, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, they're really pretty. I think the local artist who repainted them was also the original artist.
Oh, cool. Apparently the repainting only took about 16 hours, and that makes me think our house is white, and we've got a side we could fit some dinosaurs on.
Just scream out to the neighborhood, "We like dinosaurs."
Yeah, I think it would be cool. We need some more art in our neighborhood. It's too bad we're so far from Bristol. Otherwise, maybe we could get this guy to do it.
Maybe. Next, in Dixon, California, off the I-80, there's a 14-foot tall Brontosaurus skeleton in Cool Patch pumpkins. The dinosaur has no name, but the tail and the neck are made from caterpillar tractor tracks. The ribs are car springs, and the head is made of dual oil pans. And at night, the dinosaur lights up. Matt Cooley, who owns the pumpkin patch, said originally the dinosaur is going to be a seasonal thing, but now it's year-round. And apparently the bright lights on the dinosaur at night make it look like it's breathing fire. Alan Clark is the artist who created the skeleton, and he's made a few dinosaur skeletons, and he ran out of space in his own area, so he sold the Brontosaurus skeleton for $5,000. He originally was asking for $15,000. And Matt Cooley had wanted to put more dinosaur skeletons in the pumpkin patch, but the Brontosaurus was the only one left when Alan Clark lowered his prices, which is understandable. I might have wanted one as well.
Yeah, sounds cool.
Yeah. So Alan built his first dinosaur skeleton 1 year before Jurassic Park, and it was a small-scale model of a T-Rex, and it took him 13 hours to make. He calls it Artosaurus. But it wasn't completely accurate. So then he decided he wanted all his skeletons to be accurate from now on, and his next T-Rex took 30 hours to build, and the Brontosaurus took 50 hours to make. And Alan next plans to build more dinosaurs, and one of his ideas is to make a barbershop quartet where automated dinosaurs sing.
That is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I like that he's trying to make them accurate. Usually with these artistic, especially the outdoor kind of installation-y type things, they just kind of go for whatever looks cool. So it's nice to make them accurate.
Yeah. Next, in New Zealand, a man named Don Patterson has turned the Amaru railway station, which was built in 1900, into Amaru Prehistoric World. There are 2 small theaters that play short animated dinosaur movies, a rock collection from Antarctica, and an art gallery. Don also worked with animator and painter Jack Grenfell to create animation and visual effects, putting dinosaurs on the theater walls, and the plan is to expand that art and incorporate 3D headsets. So that's pretty cool. Turn a train station into a dinosaur theater and more.
Yeah. Whenever I was a kid and I would see places like a train station or a school or something for sale, I would imagine, like, what could you do with that huge space? That's pretty good use.
Yep.
Speaking of big dinosaur spaces, the Dinosaur State Park and Arboretum in Rocky Hill, Connecticut, had a Connecticut Open House Day to celebrate its 50th anniversary on Saturday, June 11th. And they're actually doing events all year. We might have even mentioned one earlier, but you may notice June 11th is before this podcast aired, but we did post it on Twitter and Facebook before this. So if you want to get notifications about events before they happen, you should follow us there, because it's really hard to talk about it on the podcast, edit it, and post it in the cycle before the events happen, because a lot of times you don't find out till a couple days before. And it's I Know Dino on Facebook or at I Know Dino on Twitter if you want to join in the fun. But anyway, the Dinosaur State Park has one of the largest North American dinosaur track sites, and they're enclosed under a big dome, so they're kind of protected from the elements. The open house was free, and it had feature films, animal programs, nature walks, dinosaur track casting, and a Lego building contest. So sounds like a pretty cool event. The dinosaur track casting is interesting to me because we just talked about another dinosaur track site that bans the practice due to potential damage. But I guess since this one is supervised, maybe it's less damaging? I don't know. If you want to make a cast, you need to bring 10 pounds of plaster of Paris and a quarter cup of cooking oil, and you're limited to 1 cast per family or group.
That sounds to me a little bit like Tom Sawyer getting his friends to paint the fence white. Hey guys, this looks like a lot of fun. If only you could have so much fun. Bring your own plaster. Plaster this.
But you get to keep it at the end.
Oh, okay. That's
pretty
then.
Cool.
That is.
I don't really know what you do with it. I guess it'd be kind of cool to have a cast of... I'm even imagining, we're big dinosaur fans, but like, where would you put a huge...
The backyard.
Plaster print. I guess you could like
or
stamp
the front
it.
Yard.
Yeah, you could like use it as a stamp and make footprints. That could be kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, getting sidetracked. The Lego build contest also had 3 age groups and lasted for 4 hours. And Legos were provided, but the builders didn't get to keep their creations.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
Hope they took lots of pictures.
Yeah, I'm sure. In 4 hours... you could probably make a pretty awesome one. I wondered how many Legos they had available. You know what I mean? Like, is it like the Lego store where they have those huge tubs of tons of different types, or was it like everybody gets 100 pieces or something?
Yeah, I don't know. Next, the Revolution Ice Center in Jenkins Township, Pennsylvania had dinosaurs on exhibit with replicas of dinosaurs and fossils, and kids could dig for bones. The event was hosted by T-Rex Planet, which is a touring exhibit of animatronic dinosaurs. I wonder if they had any dinosaurs on their ice rink. That would have been interesting.
It can be done.
Yeah. And in Mantua Township in New Jersey, 4th graders have come together to ask the township committee members for a sign that commemorates Dryptosaurus aquilunguus. The dinosaur is related to T-Rex and was found in 1866, 150 years ago. The kids were part of a fossil dig earlier in the year at Rowan University's fossil park, and some of the kids now think that Dryptosaurus should be the state dinosaur.
I don't know if New Jersey has a state dinosaur.
I don't know either, but I really love that this class came together to do this.
Yeah, that's cool.
And next, in the UK in Truro, a young T-Rex escaped from its puppet show at Dinosaur Zoo and rampaged in the street. There's a video. which we'll post on our blog, and you can see in it a lot of people are gathered around this T-Rex, which is thrashing and hitting people with its tail. It doesn't care. So some parents had to actually shield their children from it. So one woman kind of knocking the tail away with a baby in the other hand.
Parenting.
Yeah.
T-Rex doesn't care.
Nope.
There's a funny video of someone in one of those inflatable T-Rex costumes chasing an SUV painted like the ones in the original Jurassic Park. The kind that got the top smushed in by the T-Rex, the green and yellowy, quote-unquote electric, I guess, ones. It's pretty funny, especially when the T-Rex gets tired and has to take a break while chasing the car. And then at the end, which is pretty shortly thereafter, the T-Rex high-fives an onlooker because they just did this on a public street and in a public parking lot.
Yeah, the car parks.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. There's also a video on YouTube of somebody giving their grandma Samsung Gear VR to watch Jurassic Park in virtual reality, and it gets a little too intense for the grandma. At first, everyone is laughing while she's freaking out a little bit, but then someone sounds like they get a little worried and tell her to take it off, and she takes it off, and then after looking a little disheveled, she starts laughing pretty hard too. Yeah, so it's always funny when people try VR for the first time because it's a little bit unsettling. Mm-hmm. There's one part of the Oculus Rift intro video where you're on the edge of a building, like you're about to jump off or something, and you can step forward as close to the edge as you want to, but it's amazing how you really don't want to because it's so realistic. I've also heard that if you get the 3D version of any of the movies that are in 3D, I guess, especially Jurassic World, I've heard this about, that you can watch them in 3D in a VR headset. And even though it's not fully immersive like most VR stuff, it's a pretty cool experience. But we only have the regular Blu-ray, not the 3D version of Jurassic World, so I'm just taking other people's word for it. But why would they lie to us? The internet never lies.
What about dinosaurs?
That's mostly true. Speaking of VR, there's another new VR game that will be coming out for the HTC Vive called Island 359, which is basically like you trying to survive in the first Jurassic Park after the dinosaurs escape, from what I can tell. It's still a little way off from release. They haven't even released a video trailer, just a few screenshots. But it looks just like Jurassic Park, with dinosaurs breaking out, destroying vehicles, trying to eat people. You kind of know how it goes. They say that they'll be releasing it in the form of early access on Steam this summer, which seems pretty soon, considering they haven't even made a video of the game content. But who knows?
Can you imagine that grandma's reaction?
I can. I think it would probably be pretty similar. Although maybe now she's a grizzled VR veteran and it wouldn't throw her off.
But you would also have more control this way.
That's true. And this game, too, they say, like, you'll have weapons and you'll be shooting at them, so it's not as cool as Saurian.
On a tamer note, for kids who love dinosaurs, the HuffPost Teen recommends watching Dino Dan Dino Babies. It's a DVD collection where Trek Henderson, a junior dinosaur expert, imagines what baby dinosaurs would look like in his backyard. And there's a lot of CGI dinosaurs, and some of the dinosaurs include Edmontosaurus, Triceratops, Brachiosaurus, and Spinosaurus, which I imagine looks pretty cute as babies.
Yeah, everybody loves baby dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm. Next, Sputnik News shared a video of a cat dressed in a dinosaur outfit that did not want to be in that dinosaur outfit. The cat's name is Oscar, and this short video shows the cat walking backwards and rolling over, looking pretty defeated in his green costume. It kind of looked like the footage was backwards. I couldn't completely tell, but it would be funnier if the cat was actually walking backwards, trying to get out of the dinosaur costume.
Yeah, it probably was.
Yeah. And a Labrador puppy is making his rounds around the internet as a cute kind of T-Rex puppy after his owners posted a picture of him standing in a pool. So the puppy has his front legs held close to his chest, and the water magnifies his hind legs to make them look much larger. So they look kind of like T-Rex legs, and then his arms look extra small, so he's got a little T-Rex pose going on.
That's funny.
Labrasaurus. And last, there's more rumors about Jurassic World 2. There is a possibility that there will be experts experimenting on small dinosaurs that can be domesticated as pets, and also the dinosaurs will be all over the world, and there might be a lot of hybrid dinosaurs.
So it kind of agrees with things we've been thinking since the original Jurassic World closing scene.
Yeah, exactly. Still 2 years away, though.
Yeah. Before we get into our dinosaur of the day, we have another quick word from our sponsor, Audible. And Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a 30-day free trial to give you the chance to check out their audiobook collection. As you've probably heard by now, we published one of our dinosaur books written and read by Sabrina on Audible, and it's titled What Happened to Brontosaurus? And with this offer, you can get it for free. So all you have to do to get the free audiobook is go to audibletrial.com/iknowdino. Again, that's audibletrial.com/iknowdino. And then you just use the service as you normally would. So you can just search for whatever audiobook you'd want. You can also search for authors, or you can just search for like dinosaur and find all the books that might be about dinosaurs. There are quite a few of them, actually. I've got several in my queue, like Raptor Red and the Dinosaur Lords. And I just finished listening to The Dinosaur 4, and we might have an interview with that author coming up soon. So if you want to listen to that book before he comes on to talk about it, you could check out The Dinosaur 4 too. And if you're tired of dinosaurs and you want to try something else, I don't know why you'd ever be tired of dinosaurs, but maybe there's another book that you want to read or listen to. You can just go in there and you can browse by genre, or you can look at the top books. Last year, a huge one was The Martian. That was one of my favorite all-time Audible books. So you should go to audibletrial.com/iknowdino, look for some books, and you get the first book for free. Cancel anytime. Keep the books.
Sounds like a good deal.
Yep.
And now for our dinosaur of the day, Citipati, which was a request from Jill via Patreon, so thanks, Jill. It was an oviraptorid theropod that lived in the late Cretaceous in what is now Mongolia, and its name means funeral pyre lord. In Tibetan Buddhist folklore, Citipati were two monks who were in a deep trance when a thief beheaded them, and so Citipati are usually shown as a pair of dancing skeletons surrounded by a flame. It was described in 2001 by James M. Clark, Mark Norrell, and Rinchen Barsbold in a 2001 paper called Two New Oviraptorids, Theropod, Oviraptorosauria, Upper Cretaceous, Jadokta Formation, Ukatogod, Mongolia. Apologies if I butchered that name. The type species is Citipati osmolske, and the species name is in honor of Halska osmolska, a paleontologist known for oviraptorids and Mongolian theropods. It was found in the Gobi Desert, and many well-preserved skeletons were found, and some were found brooding on top of nests. The holotype is of a nearly complete skeleton, and there may be a second species, but it is unnamed. It's one of the larger oviraptorids, though not as large as Gigantoraptor, which was named in 2007. It was about 10 feet or 3 meters long. It had a long neck and short tail. It had a short skull with lots of openings in the bone structure, and it had a toothless beak and a tall crest, similar to a cassowary's. It's very similar to Oviraptor, which we discussed in episode 78, and often the two are confused. In 1981, a large oviraptor with a distinct crest was called Oviraptor, but has been tentatively reclassified as a second species of Citipati. And it has the large, tall head crest like a cassowary, which is taller than other Citipati's head crests. This skeleton was so well known it was often depicted as Oviraptor, especially since the Oviraptor holotype had a crushed skull, so it's unclear exactly what it looked like. 4 Citipati specimens have been found in brooding positions on top of egg clutches, and one has the nickname Big Mama. It was described in 1999 and referred to as Citipati in 2001. It's possible that Citipati had feathers on its forelimbs. The position suggests that the feathers would help cover the nest, with its arms and legs spread out on each side of the nest. Modern birds assume a similar posture, which further links birds and theropod dinosaurs. And the discovery of Citipati's brooding changed the way that scientists thought about oviraptorids, especially in 1993 when they found a Citipati embryo inside an egg that was thought to be a Protoceratops. So instead of being egg thieves, this group shows that they cared for their young. And many Citipati eggs have been found. These eggs are oval-shaped, and they were arranged in concentric circles of up to 3 layers. Clutches may have had as many as 22 eggs, and the eggs are 7 inches or 18 centimeters long. In the same nest where scientists found the Citipati embryo, they also found 2 skulls of embryonic Brontosaurus, a troodontid, which means that Citipati may have either preyed on them, or maybe an adult Brontosaurus laid eggs in the Citipati nest so that Citipati would raise them.
Sneaky.
Yeah, it's known as nest parasitism. Oviraptorids lived in the Cretaceous in Mongolia and North America, and they used to be considered ornithomimids, but now they're part of Maniraptora. They're generally small with short skulls, toothless jaws, and crests on the skull, and they had feathers. Compared to other Maniraptorans, they have short tails.
And our fun fact of the day is that there have been over 300 animal taxa named after Charles Darwin, including at least 2 dinosaurs. One, the Demandosaurus darwini, was discovered in Spain and named in 2011, and it's a diplodocoid sauropod from the Cretaceous. The Darwinsaurus evolutionis, pretty clever name there, was named in 2012 after being referred to by different names several times, all the way back since the 1800s when it was originally found, but maybe a nomen dubium for another iguanodont or hadrosaurid, and it's also from the early Cretaceous.
And that wraps up this episode of I Know Dino. Thanks for listening. And if you enjoyed what you heard and like learning more about dinosaurs, then please join our community on Patreon at patreon.com/iknowdino.
And if you want to get news before it already passes for events, you should follow us on Twitter or Facebook so that you don't have to wait for recordings that take a while to edit and then the event's already gone.
Yeah. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to I Know Dino. If you have any questions or comments about dinosaurs, we'd like to hear from you at plesiosaur@iknowdino.com. And for more information on dinosaurs, go to iknowdino.com or follow us on Google, Facebook, Tumblr, or Twitter at I Know Dino.